Hello, I'm Annie Canane and welcome to this, our first episode of Nibbana TV. What is Nibbana, I hear you ask? Well, Julianne Storr, who is the founder of Nibbana, set up the company because of a lifelong interest in the topic of spirituality and wanted to take it from being a hippie new age fad into being much more accessible for the everyday person. More particularly, she wanted to influence business. Well, how's she been going? We're about to find out. Please welcome Julie.
Hi, Annie.
Hi. So Julie, tell me, why did you set up Nibbana?
Sure. Well, Annie, I was a person in the business world and I did have a lifelong interest in the topic of spirituality, and what I found was, as a professional trying to find information on that subject about events or the latest books or teachers or DVDs, it was really difficult to find one centralised place where I could find that quickly and easily. And so I decided to create a portal of something for like-minded people who would also enjoy that kind of information, and that's how Nibbana came to be.
Mm-hmm. So what does Nibbana do?
Well, primarily our aim is to help inspire people to discover and explore their spiritual beliefs, and we do that through two main ways. The first one is through the events that we provide. We bring out international speakers. Typically there's someone who has written a best-selling book, and we'll bring them out here for tours of seminars and workshops. The other thing is our online portal at www.nibbana.com.au, which is a central resource of place where they can go and find out about the latest events coming up, the latest reviews. There are articles and interviews with these teachers, and so it's all in one place.
And I see you've got a lovely Nibbana t-shirt.
Yeah, that's our own brand and range of clothing there, with lovely inspiring messages to brighten your day.
So Julie, tell me, who are some of the international speakers you've brought out to Australia?
Sure, Annie. Well, in 2005 we brought out Dr. Fred Alan Wolfe, who you might remember as Dr. Quantum from the movie.
Oh yes, the wacky one.
He was a wacky guy from What the Bleep Do We Know. And the great thing about that movie is that really was the first, a real groundbreaking movie where people were learning about how the relationship between their thoughts to create their reality. It was a really important film.
And you've got a book here by Joe Dispenza, I see.
Yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza we brought out here for a national tour in September 2007, and he was just fantastic. Really, really well received that event was. Yeah.
Who else have you got coming up?
Well, we're very excited, Annie, that in 2008 we're bringing out Dan Millman, who's the international best-selling author of Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Dan's coming to Australia and New Zealand, and we'll be taking him to Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch for some seminars and a couple of weekend intensives.
That was the first spiritual book I ever read.
Yeah, look, Dan has reached a lot of people, millions of people around the world of all different ages, so I think that's going to be a really big tour.
And another one that's reached millions, I see you've got here, is Conversations with God.
Yeah, Neil Donald Walsh, we actually toured with him in March of this year in conjunction with Hopscotch Films to promote the movie. They've turned the book and Neil's life story into a film. And, you know, there's an interesting piece of trivia on that. He's actually one of the top 50 to 100 published authors of all time, having sold over 11 million books.
Do you think that's an indication that spirituality is actually having a much bigger influence on Australian and worldwide audiences?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, books like Neil's and Dan's have always sold really well. For something like 20 years they've been bestsellers, but when you see something like The Secret that has had some funding put up by Channel 9, that's when you know that a topic's really starting to get hot. And last year we did nothing. We were one of the, with nothing but send out thousands and thousands of copies of The Secret, just packing and sending them off everywhere from Orange to Iran. So yeah, it was a really huge thing.
One of the criticisms I heard about The Secret was that it was so focused on money. Do you think that that diluted the spiritual message?
Look, I heard there has been a lot of that kind of feedback, but essentially I don't. I think that all of us can relate to money issues in some way, shape or form in our lives. We'd all like to have more of it. We'd all like more financial freedom.
Every Australian wants to win the lotto.
Absolutely. And, you know, and if failing that, if at least you can start to make some changes in your life, the way that you think, the way that you act, and start to make shifts in the financial area of your life, and you can see, wow, this stuff really does work, then maybe then you can apply that to another area of your life, to your health, for example, or your relationships, or to create the life of your dreams.
Julie, what about tough old CEOs in the business world? Do you think they can embrace spirituality in the workplace?
Yeah, it's already happening, Annie. They may not call it that, but it's probably been disguised as organisational development through the work of, say, Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and many of these principles were actually communicated in that book. It also seems that the feedback from MBAs is that they need more of this kind of information to understand what they're calling Generation Y, who are much more values-based, to be able to understand how to manage them in the workplace. And I think it's this change in the demand of how people are being managed that is a reflection of the change that's going on in our society.
Why do you think there's such a shift in business and our general lives?
I think quite simply it's the evolution of man. I think we're moving from a time and space where we've been controlled to moving to taking control of ourselves in our lives, and that means stepping up and taking personal responsibility for what happens in our results in our life.
What are your motivations in business?
My motivations are really to embrace an abundance mentality, to work with other individuals and other businesses, to help everyone achieve their goals, whether that's individually or professionally in business, and those are the principles that I've built Nibbana on.
Julie, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. We'll look forward to a lot more from Nibbana, and you can look forward to a lot more from Nibbana TV. See you next time.